Добрий день, вітаю, друзі. Медіа-центр України в Укрінформі продовжує свою роботу. І зараз у нас у студії народний депутат України Іванна Клympush-Tsintsadze. Я вітаю вас, пані Іванно. І тема нашого брифінгу – це звернення Верховної Ради України до країн світу з вимогою визнання Російською Федерацією терористичною організацією. Пані Іванно, розкажіть, будь ласка, чому це важливо і як це працює?
Дуже дякую, колеги. Ми разом з вами спільно і зі світом.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Jointly with you and with the whole free world, we have achieved serious pressure against Russian Federation, but of course, Russia deserves full isolation, and so we believe that it should not be part of G7 or G20. Russia has to be within those 5 countries which are terrorist countries and have been recognized as terrorist countries, terrorist states by the US Congress. And I mean, there has been that appeal to the US Senate and House of Representatives, because in the United States there are some national laws which allow to bring Russia to the same designation as those countries like Cuba, North Korea, Syria, and Iran. That was our goal. At the moment, European countries do not have such legislation. Other countries of the free world do not have such laws. So we hope that as this Congress acts, we will also achieve that Russia will be recognized as a terrorist state by other countries. And to that end, we prepared that resolution which I initiated, and I'd like to thank leaders of parliamentary factions, most parliamentary factions who joined us in signing it, as well as other parliament members. I would also like to thank our colleagues from Canadian, Dutch, Ukrainian organization called Democratic Initiative, who helped us to formulate some of our arguments in accordance with US laws for us to be heard. So what is the purpose of that appeal? In that way, if the US Congress approves such a resolution, passes such a resolution to recognize Russia as a terrorist state or a terrorist sponsoring state, we will be able to exercise additional pressure, additional sanctions against Russian Federation. Also, those countries who interact and cooperate with the Russian Federation will also be forced to change their behavior. And so there would be some indirect pressure in the form of second-tier sanctions. It's about recognizing what we already know in Ukraine for 8 years, that Russia is the country, the state that has been sponsoring terrorism, and it has demonstrated it not only in Ukraine, but also in Moldova, in Ichkeria, in Syria, in Georgia, and even in such countries as the United Kingdom, when Russia brought its poison there, and in other parts of the world. And in this resolution, we have not restricted ourselves to recognizing Russia as a terrorist country, but also called for additional financial sanctions, additional pressure on Russian Federation. We hope that it will also happen. We hope that we are sure that all actions taken by Russian Federation in Ukraine confirm that it shows it's using terrorist methods. Its actions are completely in line with the definition of the terrorism sponsoring state as established by the State Department of the United States. Namely, it carries out forceful actions in Ukraine that threaten life, property, infrastructure, and scare the civilians in our country and try to influence the policies of our government by scaring our citizens and killing and stealing and taking our people as hostages or deporting them. We have already got those documents translated into English, and now we will be working with United States congressmen at the level of both houses, House of Representatives and the Senate, in order to have the draft law registered in the US Congress and approved. Ms. Klympush-Tsintsadze, Ukrainian parliamentary diplomacy during the wartime, how it looks in general and what has to be done and what our parliament members are doing for our victory. You know what, I am glad to see that finally, at least after this full-scale war of Russia against Ukraine started, which they tried to hide under the name of so-called special military operation, finally our parliamentary diplomacy has got new strength, and now we have been interacting with parliament members within the Verkhovna Rada, with people from various factions, and we stand united at the international level. We work with various countries. Of course, we are not only working with those countries who support us, but we also start working, we have been working even with parliament members from those countries who have not supported this resolution by the United Nations, which requested that troops should be Russian troops should be immediately withdrawn from Ukraine and this aggression should stop. In my view, this is extremely important, to work not only with our partners but also to work with those who are either skeptical or with those countries where there is still very strong influence of Moscow. So currently we work on the committees, parliamentary committees level, as well as the informal groups level. Literally yesterday and today we received 2 more groups of parliament members in Ukraine from that network we created since the beginning of this war, which is called United for Ukraine, where there are parliament members from European countries and those from national parliaments in EU countries and European Parliament members, and those from the free world, NATO members, NATO allies, but also a much broader community. And these are people who come here for 2 purposes. First of all, to express even more solidarity with the Ukrainian people and to support us with their presence here. And second, they are with us, and then they directly see what has been done in Kyiv Oblast, in Chernihiv Oblast, in Sumy Oblast, by those Russian troops. Those atrocities that we see after those territories are liberated, when they see it, they become even stronger advocates for Ukraine and for Ukraine to receive assistance as soon as possible. Oh, and all the time we keep emphasizing several key things. First of all, the main humanitarian need for Ukraine is for us to get heavy weapons as soon as possible and as much as possible. Second is about continuing sanctions policy, sanctions pressure, to avoid any holes in those sanctions which Russia can use to circumvent them. Third, it's about financial assistance to Ukraine, so that now when we have this difficult time, we will be able to survive in this war and to provide our people with first need items, with the most needed items, and also to plan for the future, for recovery of Ukraine. Fourth, we are talking about the need to recognize first at the political level and then at the legal level to recognize Russian actions as genocide against Ukrainian people, and we have already achieved some success. We already have 5 countries, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia and Canada, who have already done it. Today we spoke with several parliament members from other countries, and I hope that as a result of their visit here, similar resolutions will be initiated in other parliaments of other countries on the European continent. Additionally, the last component of our requests is about Ukraine, jointly with 3 countries worldwide, to cause a special tribunal to be created so that everybody involved in that crime, war crimes, crimes against humanity, crimes like genocide in Ukraine should be brought to liability. Ms. Klympush-Tsintsadze, your integration and joining NATO, how much closer we have got to those goals since the beginning of full-scale aggression? How to maintain this pace we have had? definitely this is yet another area of our activities. That's where our committee works, which I'm a chairperson of, the European integration. And here we are looking for right arguments for those countries which are skeptical, because unfortunately there is still a number of countries who are still skeptical about giving us a candidacy in the nearest future. I hope that we will be able to break this trend, to change this trend, and to find this light in this tunnel. It's important for the Ukrainian society, for us to understand that we are not, we have not only recognition of our European prospects as a country who defends European values every day, but we will be fully involved, and the European countries will be fully involved in the transformation we need to carry out. So, of course, there have already been some serious radical changes in many countries' attitude towards such political decision. We understand that this candidacy status is about a political decision, and it will be a political decision, but there is still a lot of work to be done, so we try to interact as much as possible, first of all, with those countries who have been skeptical. Now about NATO. At each and every meeting, we say that actually the best, the strongest guarantee of our sovereignty, of our independence, and a restoration of our territorial integrity will be Ukraine joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, because, you know, NATO allies can provide us with security guarantees, and it means getting back into this family. One of the processes of European integration is, say, about some closer prospects, while Euro-Atlantic integration, I'm sure that there are also good prospects, but it will need many countries to be persuaded. Thank you, Ms. Klympush-Tsintsadze. Dear colleagues, you can ask your questions. Please use the microphone and introduce yourself. Thank you. My question is, I'm from Ukraine Forum, and I have 3 questions about European integration. You mentioned skeptical countries. Who helps Ukraine the most in our European progress? Which countries you will mark? I think we all know those countries who help us the most, who are our main advocates and lobbyists there. Those who don't see any continuation of the European project without Ukraine. Of course, obviously it's Poland, obviously these are Baltic countries, and we appreciate this huge work they have been doing. By the way, it's also about the dialogue. They do not only expect that Ukrainians will persuade others, but also they run dialogue with other countries, other EU members. There are also other countries who have already clearly mentioned that they will support this course. There is Croatia, there is Czech Republic, there is Romania, but still we understand that unfortunately there are some countries who are still in doubt, where their leaders even make some public statements, as, for example, recently Austrian leader, Prime Minister of Austria, made some public statement about some reservations about Ukrainian candidacy. We understand that. And, you know, we are all responsible people. We should all behave in a very responsible way as a country. We understand that there is a waiting line of those countries who have been knocking at the door of the European Union, in particular in Western Balkans. And we understand that today we should take into account to the maximum extent interests of all those countries who carry out their internal reforms to become part of Europe. By the way, in that sense, I would like to also say something. Maybe it may be a surprise for us, but I'd like to mention Italy. Currently, Italy has taken completely clear position that yes, doors should be open for Ukraine now for us to join the European Union very soon. One more question. You personally, when you analyze the current situation, can you quote any timeline when Ukraine is to become an EU member. No, I cannot. I have never, during all my work in this area, I never quoted any specific time when we should have visa-free regime or something, even though I knew more than most of the people. Why don't I quote those timelines? Because such decisions and such process depends on the number of factors, both external factors, and here, you know, we can see how events develop and how the views change among politicians worldwide. And by the way, what is important now, politicians take into account what their citizens think. And we would like to thank those citizens of the European Union who show that high level of support, which we also saw in that survey yesterday. There was very high level of support for Ukraine's membership in the EU among EU citizens. I think it will be of fundamental importance for politicians to continue that work. But speaking about the timing when we are to become the EU member, it will depend not only on external factors, but also on how quickly we will go and how united we will be in that transformation. We should not be a weak member of the European Union. We should feel confidently, we should feel equal at par with all other EU members. That's about a huge amount of work. For example, in the case of Slovak Republic, they did it very quickly, but it took them 3 years. I'd like to believe that we would not exceed that time frame between candidacy and membership. Thank you. And my last question from Ukrinform is this. On this way, what is the role to be played by the parliament in this process of Ukraine, of getting the candidacy status by Ukraine? Part of the process of getting the candidate status with the European Union is about bringing our legislation into compliance with the European laws. So I hope that we'll finally be heard, and I hope that the committee of which I am a chairperson will finally receive proper authority to not only have its opinions taken into account at the first hearing of the draft law, but also at the second hearing. And maybe we'll change our approach toward the functioning of our committee, the way it happened in other countries who moved towards membership, when there were sectoral committees delegated to such parliamentary committees in order to work to the maximum extent on those draft laws before the second hearing, the second reading, so that there would be no problems, I would say, in a diplomatic way, which would violate the European laws. This is a huge amount of work. We'll need experts and funding, financial assistance, and we'll need our unity, not only in our mood towards that membership, but in working to go through this process as soon as possible. Any more questions? No more questions. Thank you very much, Ms. Klympush-Tsintsadze, for finding time joining us. And I would like to remind you that at 3 p.m. we'll have a briefing with Tamila Tasheva, permanent representative of the President of Ukraine in the Autonomous Republic of Crimea. So stay with us. Thank you.